here on Crossfire Sports. Got a lot going on in the sports world today. A lot of playoff baseball, a lot of early season football. Today we are strictly NFL. We're going to kick it off with the power rankings for week 5 of the NFL. Looks like we both got some different number one teams. My number one team this year in the power rankings, the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to take them because they're the only undefeated team in football. They're 5-0, and they have the best defense in football by far. In 2013, they allowed the most points per game in the NFL. Since then, Mike Zimmer's taken over. They've had one of the best defenses in the NFL, by far the best this year. It's an old saying, offense wins games, defense wins championships. Look for the Minnesota Vikings to make a deep run. I got them number one strictly because of defense. And after everything they're missing, this comes down to coaching and defense. They've really been solid in that aspect.
You know,
Who you guys
Jack,
got for number one?
I got Vikings at number 3, so we'll get to that in a little bit. I got New England Patriots number 1. I mean, Tom Brady comes back playing basically a B-League team up there in Cleveland. So I don't know how much you can take out of that, but he throws over for 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. The offense is on fire. I mean, you know, the defense is coming around again. I think the Patriots, once again, are a team on a mission. It's the Kill Everybody tour. And the whole NFL is just scared of New England, and I can't blame them one bit. Patriots are number 1 in the power rankings.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that, Andrew. New England Patriots are at my number 1. I mean, they should be 5-0. They just played terrible against the Buffalo Bills, but with this red zone offense with Martellus Bennett and Rob Gronkowski, you can't double 2 tight ends. One of them is going to be single covered, especially with Jules in the slot. They are unstoppable. The defense looked great. You know, they gave up an early touchdown. They gave up 6 points after that. I truly think they are unstoppable with this offense. I'm not going to compare them to 2007, but they're pretty close.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I mean, I got the Patriots right here, which brings me to number 2 at 4-1. Only reason they're not number 1 is because they still do have that loss, and I really don't think the defense showed up to that game. Yeah, they only let up 16 points. The Bills controlled that game, whatever. That's last week. As you can see, huge improvement with Tom Brady back. And, I mean, it's been Gronk and Edelman have been the guys for the past couple of years. But when you can add Chris Hogan, and Martellus Bennett, that just makes their offense so much more dynamic, like you said, in the red zone. It reminds me of a few years ago with Gronk and the other tight end that no longer can be named on our show. We're teaming up in the red zone. I mean, that was unfair. I mean, it's true. I don't know how you can defend that. And Chris Hogan, 4 catches for 114 yards. Yeah, he's not going to make every catch, but he's our big play guy that we've been missing. So
yeah, he did look like a good deep threat against Cleveland.
Yeah, he did, and the defense did look good. Besides that Buffalo game, the defense has been superb. So look for them to be climbing up in the rankings next week.
All right, number 2. I mean, you just explained it. The Vikings, their defense has been phenomenal. They didn't shut down Aaron Rodgers, but they're playing good quarterbacks. It's not like they're playing the Browns and Jaguars every week. They're playing good teams. 5-0 early. You know, AP is Indian healthy. When he gets back, they're gonna have a great run game again. Yep. With Bradford throwing the ball pretty well. With Stephon Diggs, he's been a surprise this year. I don't think they're gonna continue this, but I feel like they'll go 12-4 this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. My number 2 team is the Cowboys. I've personally been really impressed by how they've handled everything this year so far. It's usually a media frenzy down there in Jerry Land. Jerry Jones is kind of a crazy guy, doesn't really know how to handle the media. He's still saying Tony Romo's is number 1. I think that's a joke. I personally hope he's just saying that to keep Dak Prescott's head on straight because he's been playing really great football. Dak and Ezekiel Elliott, you know, this team's 4-1 with one of the best wide receivers in the league, Dez Bryant, sitting on the bench. He's been a big disappointment this year, but with that, they have a young, fast defense combined with their offense that's looking really explosive. I'm really impressed with the Cowboys. That's a tough NFC East division, and I think they're playing really well, and they're going to continue that this year.
I agree. My 3rd team on the power rankings, another AFC team. Definitely a team that will give the Patriots a run for their money. The Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're down in number 3, and you can't really have an argument to put them against the Pats or the Vikings because their defense is not nearly as strong. Yep. But they arguably have the most high-powered offense in the NFL, and it's powered by the man named Ben Roethlisberger, who is having an MVP year. And if the season ended today, he's my MVP. because I mean he's 126 for 192 for a 67% completion percentage with almost 1,500 yards at 1,496 and 15 touchdowns. Do the math. He's averaging 3 a game with a 106.6 QB rating, which is his highest in his career to date. If he keeps that up, I like him as our MVP. I don't know. I don't know how you can go against the Steelers right now. They're looking good.
At 3, this is kind of a surprise. They always start off hot. The Atlanta Falcons. I don't think they're gonna be go very deep, but they start off very strong. I don't think it's another one of their years. I think they're gonna keep it up. Maybe lose 5 games, but they're 4-1 right now, and their offense is very high powered. With those 2 running backs, they average over 15 fantasy points a week. How can you not love that? You got Devontae Freeman can wear and tear that defense, West Coast. And then you got Tevin Coleman out of the backfield, more north-south. I like that dual threat, and I like Matt Ryan, how he's playing this year.
Yeah, I got the Falcons at number 5. They usually are kind of a fraud team. We'll see. We'll see what happens with them this year. Number 3, I'm gonna go with the Vikings. Like we've said, their defense is clearly the best in the NFL. I'm really impressed with Sam Bradford and how he's come in and kind of picked up that offensive playbook. And he looks like he's been in Minnesota for a few years, but it's really only been a few games. Former number 1 pick. Maybe he's found his home in Minnesota. The offense is a little younger. Without AP, they lost one of their offensive linemen. So a few big losses, but that defense has carried them. And that's also in a tough NFC division. I'm really impressed with the Vikings. I think Mike Zimmer is probably going to be the coach of the year as long as they keep this up. And I don't really see too many people stopping the Vikings in the rest of the NFC.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for sure. I'm going to go back to who you just talking about, the Atlanta Falcons. I have them at my 4th ranked team in my power rankings. They definitely had a big convincing win this weekend in Denver. I thought the Falcons, they've just been playing some mediocre competition. They don't like to play D, but they're just going to throw the ball around and beat you in a 45-32 game, whatever it's going to be. But the defense actually showed up. Yes, Paxton Lynch was at quarterback for the Broncos. Arguably
It's still in
third
Denver,
straight.
though.
It's still, like I was going to say, it's still the hardest place to play for any away team. You're coming across the country to play there in the high altitudes, and they stepped up. And Julio Jones, I mean, that was kind of a disappointment. Not many guys can go for 300 yards, and then, what was it, like
29?
29, yeah, that's right. 29 the next week. I mean, they obviously locked up on him or whatever, but, I mean, the running backs, like you mentioned, Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman, that's the best 2-headed monster you're going to get in any backfield because that's scary with what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree. I got the Steelers at number 4. I think Big Ben, if he keeps this up, very possible MVP candidate as well. Le'Veon Bell coming back, just doing his thing. He puts up 20 fantasy points without even getting a touchdown. That guy is pretty insane. He's going to be really fun to watch for a few years to come. I'm excited to see what the Steelers have for the rest of the way. Another tough division. There's some really good divisions in football. I think they have a young defense that has some maturing to do, but they got some vets like James Harrison who can also carry them. And I think the Steelers are definitely a force to be reckoned with in the AFC along with the Patriots.
Yeah, I agree. I have the Steelers at 4 as well. You're mentioning Roethlisberger and Bell. You guys haven't mentioned the best receiver in the league, Antonio Brown. Matt Captos mentioned this on R&D Sports. He's the best receiver in the game, hands down. He can go in the slot or in the wideout. With that, their offense is so fun to watch. If they had some defense, I would consider them putting them 2 right behind the Patriots.
Yeah, very arguable conversation. Number 5, I have the young and rising Cowboys. You look at that team, what are the names that are going to stand out? It's not Tony Romo and Des Bryant anymore. And I think the torch has been passed.
Definitely.
This guy, Dak Prescott, he was a 4th rounder. They said we need a backup. Tony Romo gets hurt a lot. They didn't expect him to start the season, but he's started better than expected for him and better than you could expect Romo to play.
Yep.
So, like you said, Jerry Jones naming Romo the starter. I get you still got to have the respect for your franchise quarterback, but, I mean, that really should just be some motivation for Dak because there's no possible way you could take him out right now with how smart he's playing, how many passes he's completing. It's ridiculous.
I agree.
And the O-line with Ezekiel Elliott running behind it is just unstoppable.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Number 5, tough pick for me. I personally have never been a fan of this team, but I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons. Like Michael said, they always get off to a hot start. Last year they started off 4-0, and I know they finished under 500 last year, and that's a weak division. You got the Saints, and you got the Buccaneers and the Panthers, who have just been disgusting this year. I think.
Lost to the Bucks last night.
Yeah, I
That's
think
a weak division.
very
That's
weak.
bad football.
The Falcons, they got their new coach coming over from Seattle a few years ago. I think they could really, if they're a team that wants it, they have the opportunity right now to go out and get it. Matty Ice just throwing deep balls all day. I think Julio Jones, he's got to be consistent. One of the best receivers in the league, but he isn't the best because of that consistency factor. What is he, 6'4" and 220? Runs probably a 4.4 or 4.5. I mean, you gotta be consistent. Antonio Brown's in the slot. He's all over the place. That's why he's the best. But I think if this team wants to make it deep into the playoffs and continue this great run, Julio Jones needs to step up and needs to be more consistent. But for this week, the Falcons are my number 5.
At 5, I got the Denver Broncos. Their quarterback situation is just god-awful. Paxton Lynch, I'd rather put Jacoby Brissett out there. I don't know how long Simeon is out, but as long as he's out, I do not think they win another ball game with just defense. Yeah, defense wins championships, but you can't win a game if you have a horrendous quarterback in there.
You need a serviceable quarterback.
You do.
I like C.J. Anderson, but I don't know. Without a quarterback, I don't see them going very far in the playoffs. Their defense isn't going to continue to do like they do. That's why they're my 5. I see them falling in the rankings in future weeks, though.
All right. I have to agree with that. We're going to go back to talking about the Dallas Cowboys, and we got 1 minute on the show here, so quick take. Tony Romo, Dak Prescott, who do you like?
I like Dak Prescott all day long. I think Tony Romo's career is done, basically, in the NFL. He gets hurt every other game, and the way Prescott's playing, I don't see him slowing down. I think Dallas needs to open their eyes and figure out where their future is because it's right in front of them.
I got Tony Romo. I know Dak Prescott's going to put on a show. I wouldn't be surprised if, they go and trade him and keep Romo. I think Romo has 2 to 3 more good years with all of his injuries. He's a veteran. He's going to go in the postseason, hopefully not choke like he usually does. But if this Dak Prescott kid can continue him into the postseason and Romo comes healthy, I think they could go pretty far, with especially Zeke in the O-line.
Gotta agree with that. Sorry, folks. I know you want to hear more. Always got great hot takes, but this is all we've got for today. Thank you for tuning in from Crossfire Sports.